Record highs now up to $4.32 a gallon, 8-cent jump again, but this is happening overnight and continuing. Our next guest is demanding President Biden to increase domestic oil production. He says this, quote, Biden's embargo on Russian oil must be partnered with an immediate reversal of his anti-American energy policies. Oklahoma companies are ready and willing to provide oil and gas to the American people, but Biden handcuffed them on day one of his presidency. Instead of looking for energy in his own backyard, Biden is begging Iran, Venezuela, and Saudi Arabia for oil, end quote. Joining us, the man that wrote that, Republican congressman from Oklahoma, and member on the House Ways and Means Committee, Kevin Hern. Congressman, good to see you, and thanks so much for coming on here. So you've got gas prices there rising continuously, whether it's 8 to 10 cents every single day. Now you've got the inflation number there at 7.9% and rising for the month of February. Your thoughts?
Well, what we see right now, and thanks for having me, what we see right now is Biden and Pelosi would rather negotiate with dictators instead of getting oil and gas from Oklahoma, Texas, and North Dakota. I mean, he's been sitting here begging, Venezuela and these dictators to help out. He's been doing this actually since day one when he tried to get OPEC to produce more oil so he could take the pressure off of prices. This has been going on since the day this president got in office, and Pelosi has been complicit in helping him do it. And, he looks like he's a hero now because he did his executive order to stop Russian oil. The truth behind the matter is that was a bipartisan bill that was coming through Ways and Means that started on Monday night, and the president couldn't let Democrats and Republicans have a bipartisan solution, so he hijacked that along with Nancy Pelosi, which is one of the reasons it took some all-day negotiations to be able to let the president take some credit for it. This president has no clue what's going on.
Obviously, the Keystone Pipeline seems to be something that has come up. Again, it wasn't up and running, but you've got to get it built. That was halted immediately, and that seems to be a major question there at the White House briefings. Here is the press secretary doubling down again on not starting the Keystone Pipeline.
You guys say all options are on the table. Is restarting Keystone construction one of them?
If we're trying to bring about more supply, that does not address any problem.
It's supply from Canada, a friendly ally, instead of Saudi Arabia.
We're already getting that oil, Peter. It's the pipeline is just a delivery mechanism. It is not an oil field. So it does not provide more supply into the system.
And she went on to blame the gas surge on Russian President Putin, also the oil companies, for not using these permits to drill on. Here, we can take this video off. But bottom line is, what can be done here in this country rather than potentially asking the UAE or Venezuela or Iran or others for oil?
Yeah, this is a decades-old issue starting all the way back to Jimmy Carter. If we remember, Jimmy Carter blamed it on Americans for using too much energy, and he told you to turn your thermostats down and go buy a coat if you didn't want to pay high energy costs. This president now is saying, if you don't like the high energy costs, go spend $55,000 on an electric vehicle. This is all a planned event to help, they're hell-bent on destroying our fossil fuel industry. They have since the day they got in there. She talks about the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline. It has a delivery opportunity of 850,000 barrels a day, and we've been getting some 650,000 barrels a day from Russia, sending some $72 million in payments to Russia for months and months and months. When you look at that, that's absolutely insane. And, here's the interesting thing on this is the president doesn't want to acknowledge this, but all the while in NATO, the NATO leaders are acknowledging it in a big way. The Netherlands prime minister just acknowledged, he said, it is sad for us all that we take so much oil and gas from Russia. So they get it. They live there. They know the impact it's having on them.
Many critics argue that this administration, this has been the plan all along to get us away from fossil fuels. I'll show you this. This is then candidate Biden back in 2019 commenting on his plans for drilling oil and permits.
I've argued against any more oil drilling or gas drilling on federal lands that we can and stop that. I think we should, in fact, be looking at what exists now.
If it is their plan to get away from fossil fuels, it's working.
It is working, and the unfortunate thing is that they've come at it in a different way than the previous administrations. They're actually going after the financial institutions that fund our drillers, our producers. They're also going after the insurance companies that insure these rigs. They're very expensive to drill. Yeah. And while he talks about 9,000 federal leases out there, there's no industry going to stand up a new rig that costs some $10 to $20 million to put in the ground, only to see this administration absolutely, like I said, destroy them as we get beyond this crisis. And the American people know it, they see it. That's why you're seeing this president's approval ratings go into to the 30s and 40s.
What about getting rid of the gas tax? I mean, some other congressional leaders feel that may help.
Well, that's a Band-Aid. I know there's a couple of senators that have talked about that, and that's growing in the Democrat ranks, but that doesn't fix the problem. All that does is shorts us on the money needed for our transportation industry, our infrastructure bills. That's not going to solve anything. It's like the president saying he was going to take some 30 to 50 million barrels out of the strategic petroleum reserves. Yeah. That's about a 2 or 3 day supply. We've got to fix the problem long term. We've got to get back to energy dominance that his old boss recognized before he left office.
I'll leave it right there. Congressman Kevin Hern, always good to hear from you, Congressman.